It's another episode of Battlebots Champions, episode 4 coming tomorrow, and we're talking all about it here. All sorts of weapon variety, from control bots like Big Deal, hammer saws like Scorpius and Blacksmith, flippers like Lucky, and powerful spinners like Orbee and Bloodsport here. All sorts of robots. We're talking about all of them here on this prediction episode of the Combot Collective.
Oh my God! Wow! This is the biggest flame we've ever seen.
Has preserved enough energy to get in the flip on Carbine. We're going to go all the way.
Oh my God! That's going to hurt.
Grab the milk, Kenny.
Welcome to the Combot Collective.
Hello everybody, and welcome to yet another Battlebots Champions prediction episode here at the Combot Collective. We now have 6 of our 8 robots after Glitch continued its undefeated run last week. We're kind of loaded bracket on hand already. We talked about how stacked this bracket was in our last video. Tombstone, Tantrum, Endgame, Hypershock, Ribot, and Glitch, all here with their own special status and merit to make themselves worthy for this special bracket. And as always, they're here to break down the histories of all these robots, how they did in the last Battlebots season, and what we can expect here, who we think is going to win this Battlebots Champions episode, and who will be the 7th qualifier for the Golden Bolt bracket. We're going to be discussing all of that, of course. You know how it goes here by now. We're pretty excited to jump into it, so let's not waste too much time. I'm really eager about this bracket. There's a lot of cool robots in here, especially with this first one. We saw them win an event. They're actually undefeated coming into this bracket. Let's talk about Big Deal. Now, Big Deal, despite not competing at Battlebots 2021's main regular season, may have one of the most interesting years in the heavyweight class this calendar year of 2021-2022. It, of course, did not compete in the main season, acting as a reserve, but it did partake in exhibition matches at the event, including a steel chair-themed battle against Team Danby's Slammo, who we saw in the last episode. Big Deal's claim to fame this year, though, actually comes from its time competing last November as its alter ego Banana Runt. Banana Runt would show up to Robot Ruckus in Orlando that month, one of the nation's largest live events, and dominated the entire competition, going 5-0 with a pair of KOs. Big Deal will find itself getting wins by disemboweling Bale Spear in the first round, outdriving machines like Piranha, Extinguisher, the Rookie Drift King, among many others in this competition. And this impressive performance actually makes it the highest ranked live event exclusive robot in our TCC rankings at number 13, just missing the countdown when we did our last video a couple months back. But of course, that status will change when it enters the arena for Battlebots Champions and this fight against Bloodsport here. Big Deal actually had a pretty respectable year in its debut at Battlebots 2020, where it went 2-3 with a knockout over Perfect Phoenix and having some spirited performances against robots like RotatoR and Gigabyte, Bounty Bosses this series. And you know, it's honestly a surprise to not see them in the main season, but I would honestly be shocked to see them miss another World Championship season after their performance at Robot Ruckus, and especially if they have a good performance here. Now, Big Deal doesn't really have a history of opponents out of anyone in the Champions bracket, but Big Deal was originally signed up for Robotica and RoboGames 2023, but pulled out of both, so we've had a lot of anticipation of seeing this robot again, but kind of got taken away. I've been really excited to see more Big Deal after that Robot Ruckus performance, and we're about to get it here. I'm pretty excited to see this, but it's going to be a tough challenge here with Bloodsport. Now, Bloodsport is one of many robots who entered Battlebots 2021, fresh off a career-best 2020 season, but would fall to the high expectations come the follow-up year, as Bloodsport wouldn't do terribly by any means. It did kick off its season in a bit of a hole with its Week 2 main event loss to Whiplash via knockout, but Bloodsport would bounce back with some exciting wins over Sub-Zero and Claw Viper, but come the playoffs, the ranked 17th Bloodsport would have yet another fantastic fight versus Minotaur, probably the best of that episode, but ultimately would come up short as the bot would finish 2-2 overall that year. Bloodsport, though, still seems like a proper contender in many fans' eyes and may well be the best overhead horizontal spinner in the sport right now with the decline of Perfect Phoenix and Ice Wave. We also saw Bloodsport make it all the way to the Beta Bounty Bracket finale versus Lockjaw during 2020 during what was a bit of a surprise defeat for Bloodsport here. Bloodsport will be trying to get at least one round further in 2021 on its quest for the Golden Bolt. Now, Bloodsport only has history with one other robot in this bracket, going all the way back to Bloodsport's debut year at Battlebots 2019, when in the final round of the regular season, it would face the Canadian flipper Lucky. Lucky was having another off year in 2019 and did not find much success versus Bloodsport, breaking its weapon fairly early on in what would end up being a fairly destructive judge's decision call going to Bloodsport. But now, with the new driver Matt Olson, things may be different for the fearsome Bloodsport if these robots meet in the finals. Talking about this match here, you know, I put over Big Dill a ton during this year, of course, given their solid performance at Robot Ruckus, one of our first live event review videos we did here on the channel. And it was amazing to see Big Dill, Banana Runt, whatever you want to call it, Emmanuel Carrillo's fantastic driving on display yet again. You got to go back and watch that Bale Spear fight. In fact, we'll go ahead and have it right here for you. Just the disembowelment that Big Dill is able to pull off in a sportsman event. That was very impressive to see. And, you know, I think it's going to be well driven here. We know that Big Dill can provide a pretty solid counter to his horizontal spinners. We talked about Gigabyte and RotatoR just a moment ago. Battlebots Champions did happen before Robot Ruckus 2021, as far back as it was. Battlebots Champions was like a month further back. And it was great to see Big Dill do good in that event, but that matchup here we're likely going to be seeing between Big Dill and Bloodsport will probably be Big Dill's first matchup since Battlebots 2020, I would have to imagine. I don't know where the Slammo Big Dill matchup places in the overall Battlebots filming timeline, but this very well could have been Big Dill and Emmanuel Cabrillo's first fight in over a year with the heavyweight bot. So that would have been kind of rough, especially given Bloodsport had already fought 4 times. They know what's wrong with the robot. They've been able to fix it up. So those X factors there, you know, Bloodsport having a bit more preparation within the last 2 weeks than the reserve robot Big Dill, is probably going to play a decent sized factor, like I said. As I said in the last episode, Battlebots is mostly played in the pits. Even with all of those factors, I still think this will have to go to Bloodsport. Unless Big Dill can just lift Bloodsport, keep full control of it, box rush it the whole fight, and don't let Bloodsport do a single thing and lift it over multiple times, it's going to be hard to win this matchup. I know we saw a similar victory for free shipping in the last episode. We talked about that yesterday. I think it's going to be a spirited performance by Emmanuel Carrillo, but with no anti-horizontal spinner attachment set up, most likely. I think it's going to be the judge's decision, but that lifter is going to get torn up on Big Dill. It's not going to be pretty. I'm going to have to go Bloodsport for judge's decision, and it's honestly a bit of a clear blanket for Bloodsport here, but we'll have to see how this plays out in the end. And now let's talk about a potential Bloodsport opponent here as we first discuss the Korean robot Orbee Blade. And after 2 years of anticipation, we would finally get to see one of the most beautiful fighting robots in the world, and Battlebot's first ever South Korean representative, Orbee Blade, entered a Battlebox for the very first time. This 100% custom-built Asian equivalent of Tombstone entered Battlebots with a 3-3 career record after appearing in 2018's This Is Fighting Robots and King of Bots 2, fighting challengers like Tanshe, Cobalt, Dragon King, but most notably Red River Bull. The robot had infamously managed to rip in half while also knocking itself out in grand fashion during the first round of King of Bots 2. When it finally entered a Battlebox in 2021, it had a reputation to be destructive, but had yet to really find its winning reputation at that point. And wasn't here yet, as unfortunately the much hyped horizontal spinner would go 1-2 in its debut year with hard losses to Scorpius and Lucky before finally getting its first victory on American soil with a knockout over Dragon Slayer. Now, there's no history for Orbee with a handful of these competitors, being such a new robot to the States, but unfortunately for the South Koreans, this robot does share a bracket with the 2 robots, the only 2 competitors it lost to earlier in the regular season. This, of course, being the Bounty Boss Skorpios, who looms at the end of this bracket, a challenge which Orbee got stumped by in its Battlebots debut when it lost via knockout. Orbee would love revenge, but before the spinner can get that revenge, it very well may need to get revenge on another loss on its record, CM Robotics' own Lucky, who beat Orbee in the regular season second round following Scorpius. It's going to be quite an uphill battle for Team Orbee if they wish to reach the Golden Bolt bracket, having to face the 2 demons of their regular season past, but we'll have to see if they can pull it out, make the updates needed to get that far. But before Orbee has any of that, it's going to need to take on Kraken, who has had just as complicated of a year. The last remaining crusher in Battlebots might not be the last for long, with its captain Matt Spurk announcing after the regular season Kraken will be switching to a new weapon style or maybe even an entire new robot for the 2022-2023 seasons, given the results of its 0-3 2021 season. I mean, overall, Kraken sits at a 3-6 win-loss record this year with a TCC ranking sitting right at number 100. It broke even during its South Florida Fair appearance in January, getting one of the biggest wins of its career when it bit directly into the battery of Extinguisher before taking some hard losses to robots like Gruff and Breaker Box. The main catalyst, though, for this big design change is, like I said, the 0-3 Battlebots season for Kraken, where they just cannot get it going, losing 3 straight to RotatoR, Hijinks, and last week's Golden Bolt Qualifier glitch. Kraken, though, has a chance to salvage his 2021-2022 Battlebots campaign with a win versus Orbee here, but without their anti-horizontal spinner body they lost during the RotatoR matchup, this may be a very big uphill battle for the Crusher. If Kraken can make it past Orbee, though, it has a chance of facing 2 former opponents if Kraken can reach the finals of this bracket. We have 2 of the Crusher's former adversaries from the 2019 championship. One Kraken triumphed over, one Kraken just barely fell to. Starting with the former, we go to the exhibitions after the 2019 regular season, where Kraken and Lucky would end up facing each other. 2 robots that were long gone from playoff contention at that point, squaring on into what was admittedly an underwhelming back and forth matchup, which saw Kraken pulling up the W via a unanimous judges decision. But both these robots have become a lot more serious in the 2 seasons since 2019. A rematch between these 2 would be thrilling to see. But another thrilling rematch would, of course, be a run back of the round 2 split decision defeat Kraken would have versus Blacksmith during that same 2019 season. This would be another fantastic 3-minute fight from 2 robots who are known for fantastic 3-minute fights, as both robots would be going blow for blow here, locking hammer with jaw as Blacksmith would barely come out of this the winner in a split decision. With Blacksmith now transitioned fully to a hammer saw, something we'll talk about in a couple moments, and the lack of momentum on Kraken's side, this match could be completely different in this new year. But now let's talk about this Orbee versus Kraken matchup. We've seen it teased a lot over the past. I mean, it was in the Battlebots opening montage at the start of the year. You know, you guys, let's address the root of the issue right here and why I think Kraken is going to lose this. I definitely think this is going to be a loss to Kraken, and for multiple reasons here. I don't know if Orbee has the power to knock Kraken out. We know it is a surprisingly durable robot. It can go far in matches. Just look at the RotatoR fight, who arguably may be the best horizontal spinner in the world, even given what happened with Glitch last week. I mean, it's still a very solid robot, and that was a freak incident. But talking about this fight here, Orbee's no RotatoR in terms of durability, but it may be in power. And the one thing that Kraken did have going for it in that RotatoR fight was that horizontal spinner chassis was still around. That horizontal spinner chassis is long gone now, and it has affected Kraken big time in this tournament. We've seen it so far, and I think it's going to affect it here again. You know, it has those flat sides that are just going to be food, big time food for Orbee to just strike again and again and again. And it's always surprisingly tricky to get to the wheels of Kraken. You know, it has to be a big time powerhouse robot like Son of Waiachi to pull off something like that. But, you know, we know exactly how powerful Orbee's Blade is, given the matches we've seen in the past, taking on Dragon King and Red River Bull, 2 matches that we mentioned before that had some major disembowelment. I mean, even the Dragon Slayer matchup, Orbee was scoring some serious destructive points. But once again, jumping back to this matchup here, you know, we've seen some teases of this matchup, some previews of it, and I just think this has to go to Orbee. I mean, Kraken can't flip Orbee over, which is the only thing that they can get over on them. I don't think Kraken can break Orbee's Shremek or capitalize on Orbee's incredibly slow self-riding process. Probably one of the few robots that can't capitalize on Orbee's self-riding process. So there's a lot of things going uphill for Kraken here. Plus, Orbee is coming off a victory, so there is a little bit of momentum for the horizontal spinning here versus Kraken, who's just in the absolute pits. 0-3 for the year, and all this happened, of course, before the South Florida Fair. So there's no momentum here for Kraken at all. I don't have too much though to say about this matchup. It does seem like a bit of a straightforward result here. I gotta go for Orbee to win this one via judge's decision. So with that right there, we got Orbee and Bloodsport predicted on the left half of the bracket semifinals. We'll get to that in a little bit. Starting with the second half of the bracket, we were just discussing Blacksmith a good portion while discussing Kraken. So now let's talk about the sport's newest hammer saw himself, Blacksmith. And of course, as mentioned, Blacksmith is on the hunt for a season to top its sole top 16 run in 2019. In 2021, Blacksmith would return from a 1-year hiatus, looking like a whole different robot, ditching the burning hammer for a burning hammer saw to impress the judges even more, which was a big issue with Al Kindle, a big flaw with Blacksmith, he would say. But things were not firing on all cylinders just yet in 2021 for Blacksmith. After a nail-biting judges' decision victory versus free shipping during week 1, we would see Blacksmith get torn apart by 2 robots who reached the playoffs in Shatter and Malice, with Blacksmith choking away its top 32 opportunity in that latter match against the horizontal spinner. Now, excluding the aforementioned Kraken meeting in 2019, Blacksmith has no other history with the 7 other robots on this episode, but does have experience versus a lot of these robot designs. We've seen Blacksmith and Al Kindle fight since 1996, and we've seen him fight flippers like Bronco, overhead spinning weapons like Saw Blaze, and control bots, of course, like Kraken. So, of course, Al Kindle definitely going to have the experience advantage coming up against this challenger in Deadlift. As yes, Deadlift and Team RoboGym are still fairly new to the 250-pound class, and the butterfly effect of the COVID-19 pandemic got Deadlift into the 2020 Battlebots Championship as a last-second entry. And despite one shock victory over Jackpot during Bounty Hunters 2020, the robot has yet to really find its way as of yet as a contending robot. In 2021, Deadlift would only have a 2-fight regular season, going 0-2 versus playoff contenders Icewave and Jackpot, which left it out of championship contention fairly quickly, and now the team has left to focus on these bounty brackets yet again, where Deadlift got its name on that map and probably saved any chances it had to make the 2021 season. But of course, there's no real heavyweight history for such a new team like RoboGym, but it does share a home event with Al Kindle, as both these teams really got their live event reputation by competing at NERC. Events like Motorama and Franklin Institute during their own eras of their sport. Al Kindle, of course, had the original version of Blacksmith debut at these Northeastern Robot Combat events alongside other robots of his like Enforcer during the early 2010s, while RoboGym Robotics would burst into that scene in the late 2010s and early 2020s with machines like Botceps, Roundhouse, and Bigley in these Eastern area competitions. Which era will come out on top here, though? But I think old school is going to take it here. I got to go Blacksmith. You know, both these matchups here, we'll get to Switchback and Lucky in a second, but both these matchups on this half of the bracket really seem like open shut cases. Talking about this matchup, though, I mean, Deadlift's got a flat top. It's going to have plenty of places where Blacksmith can just swing the hammer up and down, even if they do use the overhead muscle clamper that they haven't only used in one match so far this season. They were just a straight up lifter during the Jackpot matchup. I just think that with that flat top, the much quicker Blacksmith, the much more durable Blacksmith, it's just going to be just a rack down fight and maybe even a knockout here for Blacksmith, because we have yet to see much durability in this Deadlift so far this year. You know, Deadlift's kicked off its 2021 season strong. At least the first minute of it, you know, controlled Jackpot looked like things were going the same way as the Bounty Hunters 2020 fight of a Deadlift and Jackpot, but ends up not playing out that way. Jackpot would catch up in that fight and just leave Deadlift absolutely reeling for a judge's decision loss, and Icewave would just straight up knock it out. And Icewave is not the most impressive robot anymore. I hate to say it, but we kind of saw it in the regular season, and we saw it during Battlebots Champions last episode, but I digress. You know, we just have yet to see the durability been proven on Deadlift. You know, Pori would hate to say it, but I think even he would agree. But meanwhile, you know, Blacksmith's weapon had to have been shut down by some crazy weapons. We know what kind of power the big red weapon, the Malice Boss, can deliver. And the Mary Special on Shatter, they debuted in that match. And while Blacksmith was able to show some power, bending that weapon out of proportion, the Mary Special laid in some huge strikes and absolutely obliterated Blacksmith, sniping the chain, just taking the robot to task. But we have yet to see Blacksmith get knocked out, and there's no way a robot like Deadlift, even with the clapper, is going to knock out Blacksmith. I mean, they could throw it on the upper deck all they want. They can even try to get it out of the arena. But Al Kindle is one of the most underrated drivers in the world. He knows how to get that Blacksmith hammer weapon right in the perfect place. So expect a lot of sparks, expect a lot of flames, and I'm going to be bold here. I'm going to say expect a knockout here. I think it might even be over within the first half of the fight. I think Blacksmith is going to win this one and go over to the semifinals, where they're going to be taking on the winner of Lucky versus Switchback, which we're going to be talking about right now. And of course, entering our last of 4 round 1 matches here in a duel of Texas versus Canada, we have yet another hometown favorite of mine, DFW competitor in the 2021 rookie Switchback, a much hyped and very unique robot captained by former FRC captain and current CEO Greg Needell. Switchback was bringing a very unique overhead drum-esque weapon designed for striking specific areas of robots, a complex design which had a lot of faults in its rookie campaign, going 1-2 with its only win coming against the struggling Slammo during a round 2 YouTube exclusive fight. After Battlebots though, the specialized drone will be quite busy, appearing as a display bot in a large tech conference in Germany, no Jaeger exhibitions though, and of course appeared in a very recent special 20-minute video made by YouTuber Strange Parts, one of the teammates of Switchback in build-up to this episode, a video you should definitely check out. But no real rivalries or history to speak of, with Switchback being even newer of a robot than Deadlift, who we talked about just recently. But it is growing with Sub-Zero's abysmal 0-3 regular season, still takes the subway, and Dragon Slayer batting 250 for the year now. A solid run from Switchback could give Team Midnight Invention the honor of being Texas's best 250-pound team in 2021 to 2022 season. And now, last week we cover who is the robot I personally really want to see take this bracket, and the robot who very well may be my pick to win it all. A competitor we've seen take some massive steps during this 2021 season, its best season yet. We're of course talking about Canada's best heavyweight and maybe one of the best flippers in the world now, Lucky. Lucky is of course the 250-pound version of the iconic super heavyweight Ziggy, a Canadian flipper so dominant it won just about every super heavyweight title in the weight class's final 5 years, essentially killing the super heavyweight division. Due to this 350-pound dominance, there was a ton of hype behind Lucky in its 2016 debut, but up until 2021, the robot sat at a 4-9 record, pretty abysmal, with the only real positive mark being that one time it made the Desperado finals in 2018. 2021 though, Mark Demers would hand the remote to one of the best RC car drivers in the world, Canada's own Matt Olson, who very well may be one of the rookies of the year when it's all said and done. Olson's insane driving and robot control led Lucky to its first ever winning regular season campaign, picking up dominant knockout wins versus Orbee and Mammoth, and a hard-fought loss versus eventual 2021 champion Giant Nut winner Tantrum. Lucky would make the playoffs for the very first time in its career with this run, but would fall to a top seed in Copperhead during the round of 32 in a very contested bout. And with all this momentum on its side, Lucky very well may be a favorite to win this half of the bracket, and as we mentioned prior, there could be some potential future rematches waiting on the bracket's other end. Of course, we just addressed it beating Orbee Blade in round 2, and while I'm sure CM Robotics wouldn't mind facing a robot they've beaten with ease before in the finals, you gotta think Mark Demers would love this new driver to challenge Bloodsport in the 2019 rematch. Like I said earlier, with Bloodsport coming off a rough year and Lucky looking seriously better than ever, tides could end up really changing in this matchup. But now let's talk about the fight. This just feels like a seriously tough draw for Switchback here. I mean, when you look at a robot like Lucky, you know, the small wheels are one target. I mean, I kind of worry about that blade being able to get such a low target like those wheels on Lucky, but I digress. Everything else on Lucky, you know, there's no jagged edges, there's no sharp corners, there's no little areas where it can rip off, like no stabilizer on uppercut or no wedgelets or anything. Lucky is a wedgy body with a slanted top and that big plow up front. They have that pop-up lifter, and it just seems like it's going to be a hard matchup. There's not going to be really anything for Switchback to get purchase on. The only thing I could personally think of is maybe if Lucky's flipper gets stuck open again, then, you know, it's going to be open season for Switchback. Then it can just strike and strike and strike and strike. But, you know, if that doesn't happen, and personally I don't expect it to happen with how Lucky has been doing so far this year, this is going to be a hard match for Switchback. We know it does get a little bit of solid offense. It does sort of come in just forward battering ram style like we saw versus Slammo. So they can manage some offense, especially if they reach the sides of Lucky. Maybe those damage points can rack up. But we saw it versus Gruff. You know, if this robot gets caught on its side, if it gets caught on its top after some damage, and damage can easily happen with such an intricate robot, it might not be able to self-right. So, you know, this is a big, wonky, goofy target for Lucky to tackle here. And with how well Matt Olson is driving, this seems like it's going to be an open-shut case and another really one-sided matchup on this half of the bracket. Lucky's quicker, it's more durable this year, much better, much more effective weapon. That launcher is doing crazy things this year. There's just so many factors going Lucky's way that there's just not much here you can give Switchback credit for. And it sucks to say that, being the Texas guy. You know, they're definitely going to want to go far here, but I don't see that happening. I do see them coming back in Battlebots, though. You know, this is like Triple Crown. This design's going to need a couple years to, like, get well tuned in before it really becomes a competitor. We saw Whiplash kind of take that route with Splatter and so many years ago. And I definitely think this won't be the end of Switchback, but it will be the end of seeing it this year, at least until the next Battlebots season. I got to go with Lucky, and I think Lucky might be going pretty far here. So that scores us up for a Lucky versus Blacksmith matchup in the semifinals, and oh my goodness, that would be an exciting matchup to see. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's go back to the other half of the bracket here and discuss this battle of international horizontal spinners, US versus South Korea, Bloodsport versus Orbee Blade. Both these robots have packed a powerful punch in the past, serious cannons, but with this matchup, I think it's all going to come down to durability, history, and experience. We got one robot who's built like a brilliant brick shithouse like Bloodsport. I mean, this robot doesn't die the old-fashioned way. Usually it comes down to something going on with the arm, or something going on with the wheels, or something going on with the weapon. The bot itself is an absolute tank. You don't see this machine just die out to anything. But Orbee is the exact opposite, you know. While Bloodsport's a brick, Orbee is a piece of art. It's, you know, on quantum levels of beautiful, and you hate to see it get thrashed every time it goes in the arena. But it's had some bad luck against spinners in the past, going back to events like King of Bots and Dissasembling Robots, or even going back to Battlebots with Skorpios, a potential challenger for it if it does reach all the way to the finals. We've discussed that already. As beautiful as that is, there are a lot of juicy little parts, little bits sticking out here, there, and everywhere that Bloodsport would just have its way with. It's going to be an absolutely brutal matchup. I hate to say it, and the only way Team Orbee can pull this off is if they keep that rear plow. It's a sturdy plow, that rear plow. If they can keep that thing squared up with Bloodsport the entire fight, the same way Free Shipping kept its front weapon squared up with Ice Wave the entire fight, maybe we'll see something happen here positive for Orbee. But then you got to think about the judge's decision. Are the judges going to give Orbee a win like that if they don't use that horizontal spinner at all, or very minimally? Because it's going to take a lot of horizontal spinner strikes from Orbee to even show any damage to a bot like Bloodsport. I am very eager, though, to see how it's going to happen when these weapons go, you know, weapon-to-weapon collision. Is it going to be brutal? Is it going to be underwhelming? We're going to see fairly soon, I have to imagine. But I said at the top of the video, I think this this half of the bracket is a fairly easy one for Bloodsport. It gets a little contentious there in the bottom with Lucky and Blacksmith. We'll get to that in a second, of course. Here, though, I got to go with Bloodsport. Beating Orbee here would be very exciting to see Orbee go all the way to the finals and make that, you know, kind of shocking run like we saw with Deep 6, like we saw with Glitch here. But I just don't think they're going to have the mileage. This is a very stacked bracket, maybe the most stacked bracket we've had so far in Battlebots Champions. It's going to be kind of tricky for some of these lesser known, lesser proven robots who really haven't yet found their winning niche, like Deadlift, ORBY Blade, like Switchback, to even make any ground here. It's going to be tricky, and I think it's going to be all big names here in the finals as we address that other semifinal matchup between a couple of big names, Blacksmith versus Lucky. Now this is a bit of a crossroads one for me. I love Blacksmith. Blacksmith is one of my favorite robots going right now. And it's on my King of Draft fantasy team, so yeah, I really wanted to win this matchup personally. I think it has a chance to win this matchup, definitely more so than Switchback. Almost a similar style. Don't tell Greg Needell I said that, but almost a similar style with the overhead style weapons. Of course, Switchback is not an overhead drum. They are a very solid robot, and it is sort of the same. Pinpoint the easy points, pinpoint the weak spots, and strike those. There aren't many of those on Lucky, and we also know, this is something I kind of forgot to bring up during the Switchback match, Lucky has armor configurations. He has a ton of armor configurations. We've seen all the extra chassis that they pile up in the past, so they can be very well prepared for a tournament like this. They were very well prepared for the regular season, so you have to expect they're going to be just as prepared for this. Maybe the side panel configurations would be good for the Switchback match, but this one, you know they're going to be adding those top armor panels that every overhead weapon has to deal with. We've seen them before on Minotaur, we've seen them before on other flat-topped robots. And if that's going to be the case, if Lucky does have all that extra armor, I think it's just going to be damn near impossible for Blacksmith to get a W here, quite frankly. Lucky's been super aggressive. There's a lot of areas with high ground clearance. I mean, not high ground clearance, but no wedges, no real protection from that flipper. Lucky can easily get under there. They're a slightly bigger robot and just throw Blacksmith around. I think Blacksmith will survive this matchup. I think this will be most certainly a judge's decision and probably the best fight of the night if this matchup does occur. But we know Lucky just has the advantage in modularity. Matt Olson's a crazy driver. He's the younger driver. He knows his arena well, and he knows his robot very well by now, as this would have been the sixth fight with Lucky at this point if they make it this far. And Alkindle has had some demons with this new Blacksmith. This is not the year that he was expecting to have with Blacksmith. You know, it's had its way with some of the lesser control bots like free shipping, like Deadlift, assuming that they win that matchup. But against some of the big powerhouse playoff level names in this year, you know, we talked about it with Shatter and Malice. Lucky is another playoff level name this year, and I just think it's going to throw Blacksmith around. Blacksmith's definitely going to get the offense in. They're going to strike the front wedge a couple of times. They'll get some strikes to the top of Lucky. But they won't be able to damage the lifter, I don't think, and I can definitely see this being target practice for Lucky if they can disable Blacksmith's weapon with a hard, throw. Maybe Blacksmith can land on its top, bust the weapon chain that way. We'll just have to see. Only time will tell. I think it's going to be an exciting judge's decision, maybe even a split decision if Blacksmith can play the game well. But ultimately here, I got to go with Lucky. Setting up that aforementioned rematch in 2019 I brought up during both Lucky and Bloodsport. You can see why I did that now. Let's talk about a potential rematch here in the Bounty Bracket Finals. Lucky versus Bloodsport 2. Now with bot timelines and bot sagas, sometimes one robot just has the other robot's number. Look at Lockjaw versus Bombshell. Look at Bite Force versus Hypershock. I think this is going to be a one run back where we're going to get a very different result. Of course, both these robots, Lucky and Bloodsport, very exciting robots, very good drivers, very proven names. Both these guys have made it to the top 32 and capped their season off at the top 32, so they're about as even as can be. Much more even than they were in 2019, where Lucky wasn't even a thought. You know, they barely won any matches that year. Meanwhile, Bloodsport was one of the hot rookies that year, making it to the top 24 where they lost that play in Rumble. But going back all the way to this year, once again, there's just so many factors here. One big factor, of course, being driving. We talk about driving being such an X factor with Lucky, and you just can't ignore how good Matt Olson has been this year. Meanwhile, on the other end, pieces of Bloodsport's team have been taken away, given what has happened with Retrograde, who we saw last week. Aaron Lucas was the driver for Bloodsport over the past 2 seasons and was one of the most underrated drivers in the sport, and proved why it was one of the most underrated drivers last week during Battlebots Champions during that matchup versus Glitch. But here, with Justin Marple probably being the driver for this matchup, we haven't seen as good of driving from Bloodsport this year. We need to be completely honest. The weapon control hasn't been the same. The driving hasn't been the same. It's a solid robot. It still lands big hits. It still is a proven main event level robot. But taking on Lucky this year, who has just taken so many steps forward, I gotta give it to the Flipper. I'm sorry. I know they're my favorite to win. I'm not being biased here. I really do think that the momentum Lucky has had with the new driver, with Mark Demers' new design, all the spares that they have, they're one of the most prepared teams in the entire competition. They're going to have everything that they need to beat Bloodsport here. I mean, we saw Bloodsport get taken to the edge by Claw Viper, almost get sent out of the arena. And if Lucky uses that plow, it can bounce Bloodsport all over the arena, maybe get it out of the arena without even needing to flip Bloodsport. But I definitely expect a lot of the upper deck to be involved in this matchup. I definitely expect to see a lot of the out of the arena zone get involved in this matchup, or at least those out of the arena corners. You know, Lucky is going to be wanting to take them there. Now that the out of the arena rules have been a bit more lax at this point in the year, we're seeing robots just go for it like nothing. Clearly, there's not going to be any penalty from this point on or in the future, thankfully. But Lucky is definitely my pick here. The only thing Bloodsport can really go for are those wheels. And you gotta know, you gotta think that Lucky is smarter than that. Mark Demers is probably going to run that anti-horizontal spinner attachment and just keep Bloodsport at bay. Probably a lot of what we saw in free shipping and Ice Wave, just trying to keep that spinner down as much as they can. Keep it from spinning up. We know that BNS Robotics is a smart team, and it would be awesome to see if Bloodsport can finally get past that Bounty Final hump. But I think they're going to die once again in the Bounty Finals to a robot that is just better than them. This is actually going to be a bit of an upset, a bit of a surprise for some fans, but for me, I definitely think it's going to be Lucky's matchup full and through. They've been a sturdy robot against horizontal spinners so far this year, and I don't think that's going to change at all. So we got Lucky going all the way to the finals in our bracket here, and one rematch that I neglected to bring up for a good reason, of course. I probably swear to God, I promise I didn't just forget it. Is the 2018 rematch. During the first round of that year's regular season, in the first year of the regular season format, we saw Lucky and Scorpius both having their first fight since 2016. Two robots that kind of struggled during the 2016 Battlebots season finally get their chance to show off what they can do in multiple fights during this year, and Scorpius came out hot. This was one of Scorpius's real starting performances that made it a main event robot. I had opened up the episode, was sparkalicious. I mean, sparks were getting thrown everywhere. This was back when they had those onboard cameras during the fights that showed just how well Scorpius was diving into Lucky, just tearing into the robot, taking full control of it, as Scorpius would win that matchup by knockout, I believe. I might be incorrect. It's been a few years. But, will things go the same way this year now that Scorpius is more known as a hammer saw robot and Lucky is one of the best flippers in Battlebots now after so many years of trying to become that? It's a bit of a coin flip. This is going to be a very close matchup, and it's going to be a very contentious matchup between two robots that only made it to the round of 32. We know that Zach and Diana of Team Scorpius have been very excited about Battlebots Champions. They've been building it up all year. They've been showing off their Scorpius medal, and their Ice Wave medal, I should say. And during that Ice Wave bounty, we saw Scorpius prove that it was just as good of a robot twice over in its rematch against Ice Wave. Well, I hate to say it, but I think Scorpius is going to prove how good of a robot it is twice over against Lucky. I know I keep predicting these bounty bosses to win these, and they just simply aren't. We keep seeing them not. I mean, they're now 0-3. We've seen Gigabyte get destroyed. We've seen RotatoR get destroyed. We've seen Lockjaw get embarrassed. And now, is Scorpius going to be able to keep up with it? You know, it's going to be hard to keep up with Matt Olson, a fantastic driver. But Zach Lytle, one of the most underrated drivers in the sport also. There's a reason why they are a regular playoff contender, even if it's not usually top 32. If it's not usually top 16. They're also a regular Battlebots All-Star, a two-time All-Star, in fact. So they hold a lot of merit, a lot of love to Greg and Trey at Battlebots. They're a beloved team, of course, as well, due to their builder bug, bash parties, all those things. There's a lot of things that make Scorpius a beloved robot, and there's a lot of things that make Scorpius a competitive robot. It's one of the most durable robots in the field, even though it has two wheels. The only time you ever see it get knocked out or laid out completely is when you see it, you know, get caught up in weird angles like we saw during that endgame matchup, the most recent matchup we've seen it in since this point. I think it's going to be hard keeping control of a bot like Lucky with all the upgrades they've made this year, being a lot more slippery, a lot more nimble, but there's very few robots as slippery and nimble as Scorpius, so just with that, I think Lucky is going to have just as much trouble getting to Scorpius as Scorpius will be getting to Lucky, which is why I don't think this matchup will be as exciting as the Blacksmith matchup between it and Lucky. But coming back to this matchup here, I think if Scorpius really wants to guarantee this matchup being a win, they should ditch the hammer saw and come back to the classic overhead saw blade for this matchup. It worked last time, it should work this time. Lucky got cut through like a hot knife through butter during that Scorpius 2018 matchup, and there's no reason why this shouldn't happen again. We could see some sparks fly, some robots die, and Scorpius could probably take Lucky to the judge's decision. I don't think they're going to be able to knock it out this time if that's what happened, but Scorpius probably my pick to win this one. Lucky, though, don't count it out. I definitely would not be surprised if the son of Ziggy, or I should say the son of Ziggy, or maybe the sibling of the son of Ziggy, they might be able to win this. This is a very close finals. We've had a lot of very close finals, at least on paper. Maybe not so much when they finally go down in action, but in terms of this Golden Bolt Qualifier, I think Scorpius is going to eke it out, especially if they use the saw blade attachment versus the hammer saw attachment. But don't count out Lucky. It's a very modular robot. They have plenty of attachments. They probably run the same setup they ran against Blacksmith, so it would be a proven setup, though it might be a little bit damaged given their spare situation in that regard. But I definitely got to go with Scorpius here. To go on and join robots like Ribot, join robots like Endgame, join robots like the undefeated Glitch, who we saw in last week here. But that's going to do it. I got Scorpius winning the bracket, but I would definitely keep an eye out for some of the big names in this episode. Blacksmith, Lucky, Bloodsport, they all can win the bracket. They can all go all the way to the Golden Bolt finals with the luck of the draw. I mean, if Glitch can do it, given everything that they dealt with last episode, anyone can. But that's going to wrap it up. Only time will tell before we see who will be joining them in the Golden Bolt bracket. Now, I am your host, as always, Sterling Brown here at the Combot Collective. Hope you've been enjoying these Battlebots Champions episodes so far. I'm glad that they've been able to get out consistently throughout the weeks. I'm sorry that the days have not been as consistent as I would like. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I've been playing a lot of catch-up here, like I've been mentioning. But I'm digressing. Let's talk about some social media here. If you're interested in following the Combot Collective, please give us a follow on our Instagram or our Facebook. You can find those in the description below. Or join our Discord channel. That's where all of our video upload news comes out first. As for our YouTube page, please give this video a like, comment, and please give us a subscription, ring the bell icon, all those classic things you know how to do on a YouTube channel. We're going to wrap it up here, though. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Combot Collective. I'm your host, Sterling Brown, as always, predicting Scorpius to go all the way here. We'll have to see what goes down with only one spot left to go after this episode. We'll see you next time here at the Combot Collective.
This was the Combot Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.